All right. So, hello everyone. I hope you're all having a great week. Thank you so much for taking out time and attending this session. What we have today is I'll just quickly do a short introduction about myself, about our speaker, and our company. And then I'll hand it over to Shashank. He'll be sharing the screen, which he already has started, and then he'll continue with the session. So this is actually not a single event. This is going to be a series of events. We have named it the I2E Tech Talk. In this session or in the sessions coming in the future, our techies will be giving you a lot of information about the challenges that we are solving for most of our customers. So let's get started. My name is Vivek Kadam. I have been with I2E for more than 6 years now. I look after the sales at I2E Consulting, and I also act as an account manager for most of our clients. On the panel, we have with us today our speaker, Mr. Shashank Gidbidi. Shashank is, the security ninja and IT administrator at I2E Consulting. He's a certified cloud professional. He's done certifications in Microsoft Azure, Google Cloud Platform, and Oracle Cloud, and cybersecurity as well. He has huge experience in IT administration and cybersecurity. He helps organizations set up internal processes to streamline and automate functions across teams. So yeah, that's it about our company. Let me tell you a little bit about our company, I2E Consulting. We are a software services providing company, been in the business since 2008. And ever since we've started, we've been a very pharma focused company. However, we have now started working with various other organizations. We are a Microsoft Gold partner. We are partners with AWS and Automation Anywhere as well. Our major services, they revolve around project and portfolio management, data analytics, cloud migration, and staff augmentation. We have also been working on some latest technologies such as machine learning, conversational AI, augmented reality, and blockchain, etc. So that was a quick intro about I2E Consulting. As you all know, today's topic is Office 365 security strategies for your organization. Without any further delay, I would like to hand it over to Shashank now. So please, Shashank, over to you.
Thanks, Vivek, for the introduction. A very warm welcome and good morning to all the attendees. So, our topic for today is Office 365 security, securing your organization in the cloud. Vivek, you are able to hear me, right?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Okay, thanks. So, before we started, this session is basically geared towards IT administrators and architects who are handling Office 365 environments and deployments across organizations. It will also be useful for end users and the management executives to get an idea of the attacks, the various scenarios against Office 365, and what are the steps that need to be taken for enforcing additional security. By going through this webinar, we can guide our IT teams to take the appropriate steps in bolstering the cybersecurity. And I will be focusing mostly on the critical aspects of cybersecurity in the Microsoft Office 365 ecosystem. There is also a fine line that needs to be maintained between security and usability. So before going ahead, I'd just like to mention that this webinar would be a combination of slide decks, which I will be presenting, along with some demos, which will be presented across the session. So let's move on and have a look at what exactly is Office 365 and why we need to use it. So before proceeding, Vivek, could you just run the poll asking our attendees on which software they're using within their organizations?
Sure. So attendees, you must have got a pop-up. Yeah, please select the appropriate options. Okay. All right. So I see that almost, we've got 100% for Microsoft Office 365. Shashank.
Yeah, okay. That's great actually. Okay, moving ahead. So let me define what exactly is Office 365 and why organizations across the globe are using it. So Office 365 is basically the most widely used collaboration software across organizations. So it has a market share of more than 60% across enterprises worldwide. The reason that enterprises and organizations, be it small and medium-sized businesses or the enterprises, use Office 365 is because there are no resource issues within O365. The moment your organization expands or you need availability of more resources, you can just pay on the portal and use that instantly. According to a recent survey by Enlift in 2020-21, there were more than 2.3 million organizations worldwide which were using Office 365. And this report only categorized and cataloged the companies which were using the enterprise versions of Office 365. It did not even include the home base and the business versions of this, which will increase the market size rapidly. The another reason that organizations prefer Office 365 is because it eliminates the server updates and the patches, which directly saves the IT teams from the administration costs involved in monitoring and deploying services. Reliability. Reliability is also a big major factor in guiding enterprises for adopting Microsoft 365 across their organizations. For the past 15 plus years, Microsoft 365 has always met and exceeded its SLA promised to its customers. So reliability is the most important factor. And along with that, with the introduction of Exchange Online, large and medium-sized businesses and enterprises no longer need to host the mail servers within their organization. So most of them have rapidly deployed all of their emails within the cloud. So this was a brief introduction of what Office 365 is and why organizations and enterprises worldwide are using it. Now, due to its rapid popularity, it has become a common or a most preferred threat on Office 365. There are many types of cyber criminals who focus their attacks primarily on Office 365 organizations worldwide. So what are the most common type of attacks on Office 365? So the first one is business email compromise. So what this refers to is cyber criminals will use a variety of attacks, such as phishing attacks, brute force attacks, etc., to compromise the email accounts of the users within the organization. So an example of it would be the phishing campaigns, which are run by cyber criminals using brute force or leaked credentials, which are available online. Apart from this, they would also use a category of attack known as password spray attacks. So in this, the criminals would use a dictionary to generate the most common type of passwords which are used, which are very easy to hack into. So using this attack, people are getting their accounts compromised. And the other major factor or the major type of attack on Office 365 is the device compromise attack. So in this, malware or rootkit is installed on the end users' systems to compromise their devices. Keeping in mind that these are the most common types of attacks which are happening on Office 365, Microsoft has rolled out a suite of security products inbuilt within the organization to thwart these attacks. Some of them are for the phishing campaigns and the password spray attacks. We have Exchange Online Protection and Azure AD Identity Protection. So I will demo both of these in the future slides. And for device compromise, to protect us against those attacks, we have Microsoft 365 Defender. Now let's move on why we need to tweak the default configuration within Office 365. So by default, Office 365 has a lot of security features, but at the tenant level, at the organization level, they're not enabled by default. We as IT admins need to review the organization's security posture and then enable the required settings as per our requirement. So what are the default configurations or the major categories that need to be tweaked? So by default, in Office 365, multi-factor authentication is not enabled. So the users, that is the end users, can only access their account through a combination of username and passwords. The global administrators who have access to the entire organization, they are also not required by default to have multi-factor authentication enabled. There are also not a requirement of having any multiple global admins. So in case you set up a new tenant, you can just create one global admin and access it through the portal. But it's a recommended practice that you should always have multiple global admins for a backup purpose. And this refers to our case of the break glass scenario. So what happens is, in case one of the global admin rolls out a policy or a rule which affects multiple end users within the tenant, then they all lose access to their accounts. To mitigate such type of scenarios, it's always recommended to have an emergency break glass account, which can be used to then get back into the tenant. So based on the default configuration, the primary thing that needs to be enabled first and foremost is enabling multi-factor authentication within the Azure portal. So now I'll be switching to the Office 365 admin portal to give you a demo on how to enable MFA within the tenant. So this is the Office 365 portal. So once you log into office.com with the admin credentials, you will get the Office 365 admin portal. So over at the left-hand side, you can see the admin section. So once I click on it, the admin portal will open up. This is the admin portal. And over here, if you click on show all and the left-hand side, you will see the admin centers within the Office 365 portal. So I'll just expand the admin centers. So these are the admin centers which are available in Office 365. So it ranges from Exchange Online, Power BI, Teams, SharePoint, and all the other apps which are there. So for enabling the multi-factor authentication, we need to go into the security admin center. Enable it through policies and rules over here. So I'll be taking this up in another slide. So let's move on to the Office 365 Unified Audit Log. So what exactly is the Unified Log? So logging is the basic primary requirement for all the organization. So whatever actions that the end user has taken, logging enables us to verify and authenticate all those requests. So Office 365 has a built-in module known as Office 365 Unified Audit Log, which enables us to log all the actions within the organization. So the URL for that is compliance.microsoft.com. So you can access the Unified Audit Log through this URL. It works across all the Office apps such as Teams, OneDrive, SharePoint, etc. So it is unified and works seamlessly. And by default, audit logs are enabled and retained for 1 year in Office 365 Enterprise E5 licenses, and only for up to 90 days in Office 365 E3 and below licenses. So you can manually increase the audit retention in the admin portal, but this is the default option that is available. So the primary thing, like the first and foremost thing that needs to be done to bolster the security within Office 365 is to enable the audit logs. So let me just switch over my screen to the admin portal. Now in the admin portal, we have the Microsoft 365 Compliance Center. So in the Compliance Center, if you can see on the left-hand side, there is a category for audits. So this is a new tenant that has been set up for demo purposes. So as you can see, by default, as I explained in the previous slides, the logging is not enabled for any user. So I have to click manually for the first time on starting the recording the user and admin activity. And then I can click on yes, and this feature would be enabled. One thing to be noted is, in case the organization size is very large, this feature will take a little bit of time to get updated. So it can vary from up to 1 hour to 12 hours. But this is the single most important feature that needs to be enabled. So since this is a demo tenant, we won't like have any data right now. So I'll just switch over to one more tenant and show you how it looks like. So if we go to another tenant in audit, so this is the tenant in which we have the data right now. So first it refreshes, it takes a little bit of time. Let us give it a moment to load. Yeah. So if I take today's the data logs for only today, so I can set the start and the time end time, and I can just click on search. So basically I'll get the audit logs for each and every action that has been taken within Office 365 across all the users, along with multiple details in all the apps. So as an example, if a user tries to access a file or preview a file or where the user is logged in from, so all this data is available within the tenant. So by default, Unified Audit Log is not enabled. We need to enable it. Yeah, so that was the UAL section. Now let's move on to the conditional access, Office 365 conditional access. So by default in Office 365, we have two levels of protection. So one is the security defaults and one is known as conditional access. So security defaults are the minimum security baseline that is recommended by Microsoft, but it is not enabled in the organization at any point of time. It's also a factor that you cannot use security defaults and conditional access policies at the same time. Only one can be used at a time. In case you are going for utilizing security defaults, then it basically eliminates the single factor authentication. That is the basic authentication. So the users would be required to have multi-factor authentication enabled. So how does conditional access actually help us? So conditional access can be used, for example, when we want to disable risky sign-ins or blocking access to users from specific locations. So in case you don't have any, the organization doesn't have any users who are present from a certain country, then we can just disable the logins from those countries. So nobody else or the attackers cannot access the resources from that country. But the point to be noted over here is that conditional access requires an Azure AD Premium P1 license. So that is available only in the enterprise versions of Office 365 and the Office 365 Business Premium license. So how does conditional access work? So this is a brief overview of conditional access. So basically what Office 365 does is it collects logs for all the applications, devices, and users' locations. So these data points are known as signals. Once the signals are logged in and computed, the Office 365 control determines a real-time risk for each and every action that is specified by the user. So based on that, it verifies every access attempt. So it will either grant the access if the user, if it determines that there is a certain amount of risk that is involved, then it will require multi-factor authentication. Or else if it detects that this is a threat attack, an attack vector, then it will just block the access. And then if the user has access, then only they can access their apps and the data within the organization. So how will these verification attempts work? So for example, suppose I try to log into my corporate account from a new device and from a new location, then Office 365 will default ask me to log in with an multi-factor authentication token, or else I would be blocked access to my account. So let me give you a brief demo on how conditional access has to be enabled. So conditional access, actually, we have a different portal for conditional access. So we have to go to portal.azure.com. That is the Microsoft Azure portal. Then we have to go to Azure Active Directory. So at the home page, you can see over here, you can just click on view, or we can click any of the services within this. So this is the dashboard giving an overview of my tenant. So this is a demo account. As you can see, my primary domain is this one, and the license which I have is Azure AD Premium P2 license. So this is the top tier license which is available in Office 365. Along with this, I get an overview of the users and the groups who are there. And if I have any on-premises integration enabled right now. So to enable conditional access, basically I have to scroll into the manage section, go to the security section, and over here in the protect, like under protect, we have conditional access policies. So I'll just briefly create one new policy to show you like what exactly we entail by enforcing conditional access. So if I just click on new policy and I'll click create one from a template, basically we have two templates. You can either restrict the access through identities, that is the end users, or you can do it through their devices. So if I click on identities, I can just click on next. So these are the default templates that are available within the portal. So the first one and the most important one is require multi-factor authentication for admins. Along with this, we have other templates as well, like for blocking legacy authentication. So this would be useful when we have users who are using email clients, that is SMTP clients, which are using legacy authentication, or we can also enable multi-factor authentication for all the users. So I'll just focus on the require multi-factor authentication for admin portals right now. So I'll just click on next. This is the default naming that is available. I'll just keep it as it is. And as you can see, what are the included directory roles for whom this will apply? So within Office 365, in the administrator section, there are multiple admin roles available. So the user who has the most authority within the tenant is a global administrator. But if you want to restrict your admin roles within the organization as well, so you have multiple administrators as well, like security administrator, help desk administrator, exchange administrator, and etc. So I'll just click on the create policy thing. So it will take a couple of minutes before this policy gets applied. So right now it is showing me that it's in a state report only. So I have to click on this and enforce it for to apply it. Like I have to select the users for whom this will be enabled. So since this is a demo tenant, I won't do it right away. But basically this was to help you out in creating a conditional access policy. The main advantage of having a conditional access policy is you can always review and get a report later, like monitoring the audit logs and the sign-in logs. So you can bolster your organizational security in the tenant. Now let's move on. Now next, after Office 365 conditional access, the next major thing that we need to enable is the password policy. So by default, any number of characters or even simple passwords are enabled in Office 365. So the first thing that we need to do is enforce custom banned passwords within Office 365. So what this basically means is we will not allow a user to have a simple password like password or 123456 or similar type of passwords. So we actually create a custom list and upload it to Office 365, which bans the usage of such type of passwords across the organization. So by default, that is set to audit. So we need to change it to enforce to ensure that this is getting applied for the end users. And if we have an on-premises domain controller, through which we write back the passwords back to the server, then we need to also install an agent on the on-premises domain controller and sync it with Microsoft 365. So there are multiple tools available. Like the default thing would be within the portal itself, but we have paid and open source tools which we can use to ensure that this password policy is in place. So when we want to enforce custom banned passwords, what we need to do is we need to, like there are multiple lists available in the internet where we can download the most commonly used passwords and just upload them and ensure that these passwords cannot be used by the end users. So if I go back, I'll just give a demo of this. So again, I have to come back to the Microsoft Azure portal, that is the Azure AD portal. In the manage section, I need to go to security. Within security, again, within the manage section, we have authentication methods. So if you see here, we have a column known as password protection. So this is the custom banned password over this. So by default, as you can see, it is set to no. So it is set to audit. We have to enforce it. So once I set to yes, I can just copy paste all the common passwords over here and then just click on save. So this will ensure that my end users won't be able to use those common passwords across their accounts. There are also multiple other options, such as, for example, if end user tries to log in 10 times in succession, then he would be logged out after 10 unsuccessful attempts. There is also a lockout duration of 60 seconds. So if the user doesn't enforce his password within the 60 seconds between attempts, then again it will be logged out. I can also extend this protection to my Active Directory, that is the on-prem server as well. So I can enable password protection for this and click on the enforced mode. Yeah. So does anyone have any questions till now? Vivek, do we have any
Shashank,
questions in the Q&A?
not yet. We will have the Q&A session in the end, Shashank. I've already,
Sure.
yeah, I've been checking the Q&A box, but we should get the questions in the end. Go ahead.
Understood. Yeah, sure. Thanks. So the next section would be Exchange Online. So Microsoft Exchange is a major threat vector for cybersecurity attacks within the organization. So previously, all the mails were used to be hosted in the on-premises domain controller and the servers. But now, since most of the organizations have moved online, Exchange Online is the major source of emails for the organizations. So regarding the security aspect of this, by default, all attachments are allowed in Exchange Online. So you can, like, if you don't tweak the security defaults, then you're also allowed to send, like scripts through the attachments. So this is a major concern for organizations. Along with this, there is a feature known as common attachment filter that is off by default. So what this basically means is, if an external user is trying to send you an email to your email ID and you try to open it, by default, any type of attachment would be allowed in, and it could be a executable attachment as well. So it is always advised that spam filter and common attachment filter have to be enabled in Exchange Online to ensure that the end users are not able to run any scripts on their local systems. So let me switch over to the Exchange Online Admin Center to give you a brief demo on this. I'll just a minute. Yeah. So this is security.microsoft.com. So this is the portal for Microsoft 365 Defender. At the left, if you see email and collaboration, we have a subset of activities which are scheduled over here. So if I just click on policies and rules, we have a section of threat policies, alert policy, manage advanced alerts and activity alerts. So if you click on the threat policies, these are the policies which are specifically for Exchange Online. So there are policies for anti-phishing, anti-spam, anti-malware, safe attachments, and safe links. So if I just click on safe attachments, so here me as an IT admin I can create a policy for users or groups to prevent them from opening the scripts on their email IDs. So I'll just create a simple test policy to demonstrate this. So I can use multiple, like I can either set it across the domain, specify it for a single group, or include a single user in the policy. So I'll just take a demo user, Pradeep. And click on next. So these are the settings that are available in this policy. So by default, if you see, each and every type of attachment won't be scanned by the safe attachment. So it is set to off. So what I would suggest is basically we should keep it to dynamic delivery. So what it does is, if there is a malware that is attached to any email ID, the email will go through. That is, the email would be delivered without the attachment. The attachment will be reattached only after the scanning is complete by Microsoft. Because the other options that are available, that is the monitor thing. So this will only track the results, but this is not useful since the end user will still be able to open the emails. The block thing would directly block all the messages. But in this case, what would happen is it will take a lot of time for the email to reach the end user. Same goes for the replace section. Hence, it is always advisable to keep it to dynamic delivery. We can also assign a quarantine policy to the emails if the malware is detected. But the most important thing is we should always keep a different email ID, which is used only for scanning such types of attachments. So I'll just click on enable redirect. And as an example, I'll put a user ID. Over here. So what it basically does is, in case there is a message which comes through, which is flagged as malware by the safe attachments, then it will be redirected to this email ID. So in this case, I'll just put out my email ID as a demonstration purpose, but it's advisable to keep a separate email ID specifically for this purpose. And then we can click on next. So once we review that this policy is in place, we can just click on submit and this will be immediately effective. So what this does is, this type of policy is, it will stop the attackers from using and compromising business attacks, the business email compromise attacks. Yeah. So now let's move on to the next section, that is Microsoft Teams. So Microsoft Teams is a very big platform for collaboration within organizations right now. So even though it launched very late into the market, people are adopting, like organizations are adopting Microsoft Teams in droves. So there is a huge uptick of users on Microsoft Teams. This has made it a very big target for cybersecurity attacks. And even though Microsoft Security has a lot of inbuilt tools for combating such type of attacks in Teams, there are some default options which need to be configured so that the additional security is granted over here. So by default, the first option that needs to be turned off is cloud file sharing. So Microsoft Teams allows the users, that is the end users, to share their files to the organization. So it could be like you can attach your files to Google Drive, you can put it on Dropbox, etc. So this option needs to be disabled. So I'll just go to the Teams Admin Center. So once I go to the Teams Admin Center, there is a Microsoft Teams Admin Center. If I go to Teams and the Teams settings, over here, if I just scroll down, I can see that there is an option for sharing files outside the organization. So these are the integrations that are available within Teams. So it is Citrix files, Dropbox, Box, Google Drive, and Engine. Since this is a demo account and this is the first use, all are on by default. So it is recommended, like according to the organizational security posture, we disable all these options. Or you can keep it enabled as well, but then ATP rules need to be configured within Microsoft 365. But referring back to the slide, I'll just show the diagram once again. So as you can see, through the security and compliance thing, we can always keep a retention of the files that are being shared through Microsoft Teams. So we can place a e-discovery or archive the files and also generate audit logs for all the actions that are taken place within Microsoft Teams. So this was for Microsoft Teams. Now we come to SharePoint Online, and this is a very big or the most important one, since the users who are on a cloud native architecture, most of their files or primarily all of their files would be stored on OneDrive itself. So within Microsoft 365, by default, users are allowed to share their files with anyone outside the organization, and that too without any sign-in. So as you can see in the diagram, the most pervasive, by default, the state is in the more permissive. So the users can share their files and folders using links that don't require any sign-in. So based on the organizational requirements of the enterprise, it's always recommended to adjust this according to the security posture that is required. So I'll just hop on to the SharePoint Admin Center. Now, one thing to be noted over here is that Teams or OneDrive for Business rely on the SharePoint settings for their configuration. So if I go to the SharePoint Admin Center and then I go to sharing, what I can see is both SharePoint and OneDrive permissions are displayed here parallelly. So what I can do is I can just decrease the security that is allowed, that is the external sharing that is allowed. So I can go from anyone, that is the user can share their files and folders without any sign in, to new, and that is the guest must sign in with a verification code. Or we can also just keep it restricted to the guests who are already in the organization's directory. So this has to be manually added by the IT admins. Or I can just disable the external sharing itself. So no sharing would be allowed outside the organization. But all these permissions which are there, they are dependent on the SharePoint permissions. So for example, if I keep SharePoint as the least permissive, then I can't increase the permissions for OneDrive. Since this is the base policy, like SharePoint is the base policy for OneDrive. So only if I increase the sharing capability in SharePoint, only after that I can do it for OneDrive as well. So it goes in this way. So this was for the external sharing thing. But apart from this, if I just keep it to the most permissive, which is the default option, I get these options. So first is for the file and folder links, which are there in SharePoint and OneDrive. So I can specify that only people in my organizations can open that link, or else anyone outside the organization can also open that link. And by default, it is set to edit, but I can set it up for view as well. And if I want that, people are sharing the link outside the organizations, then I can set it up like it should expire after 30 days. And also what permissions are available. So I can just set it up for view permissions as well. The other settings which are available, this is for the files. So if we have a version history enabled within OneDrive, they can view the options over here. So once I save it, the options get applied over here. But these options only apply across the tenant. We can also restrict the sharing for each and every individual site within SharePoint Admin Center as well. So this was for the individual sites within Office 365. Now we'll switch on to the Microsoft 365 Security Center. So till now we had a look at only the admin centers within Office 365. So be it the SharePoint, the OneDrive, or the Teams section. Now to get a holistic overview and to have a dashboard of the security posture of the entire organization, we have something known as the Microsoft Security Center. So this is available at the URL security.microsoft.com. So what it does is, as you can see in the image, it gives you a score and it shows you the risk rating of the organizations. So what we can do is we can set up alerts within these Office 365 Security Center, and we can also simulate some types of attacks within the organization to check how much the end users are ready for such type of attacks. One thing to be noted over here is that the simulation, that is the attack simulation, is only available in the Office 365 e-file license. It is not available for the other licenses. So you have to be on the premium tier to access this resource. So I'll just switch over to the Security Center to give you an overview of this. So the 365 Security Center has now been renamed as Microsoft 365 Defender. So what it does, it enables us to view the threats across the data, the devices, and the apps. So on the dashboard itself, as you can see, there is a recommendation from Microsoft known as a secure score. So what it's saying me right now is that out of 8 points that need to be enabled, right now 4 are implemented. Hence, I have a security score of 50. I can view my history related to this, or I can improve my score as well. We'll have a look at this. For the tenants who have a lot of users, since this is a demo account, right now we don't have any users at risk. But in cases in the tenants where there are a lot of users, we get the risk rating for each and every individual user over here. You can also enable the Microsoft 365 Defender. So this allows us to monitor the security aspects of the end user devices. So all the devices that are enrolled to Intune can be viewed over here. And apart from that, we can also add our own cards within the homepage to explore this. So the basic thing, the first part which I would like to improve, look into, is the attack simulation training. So what this does is, as discussed, we can run simulations within the organization to see how much the end users are prepared for such type of cybersecurity attacks. So if I just click on launch a simulation, these are the type of techniques that are available within the portal. So one is the credential harvest. So what this does is basically a malicious actor would send a email with the URL in the message. So once the URL is clicked, then the user will be redirected to another page where the login credentials of the user would be harvested. For the malware attachment, this is a drive-by download. So whenever the user clicks on a message, the attachment which has a macro inside it would be executed on the user's machine. The link of attachment would be a combination of a credential harvest as well as malware attachment. So the user would be taken to a different URL, and then in that URL, the script would be run. Now, link to malware is like instead of directly inserting the attachment into the message, the malicious actor would send the link through a file sharing site, for example, such as through SharePoint. And drive-by URL is as soon as the target end user clicks on the URL within the message, the background code will automatically be deployed onto their device. So as for demonstration purposes, I'll go for the credential harvesting. So once I click on next, I can run a policy over here. So the simulation name would be credential test. You can click on next. Now this is the payload that is there. So Microsoft has actually created this based on the most commonly types of attacks or the most common type of topics through which end users fall prey to such type of attacks. So for example, if I see over here, failed to like this is in Korean, just a minute, we'll focus on the English ones. Yeah, sorry, so sorry about that. Yeah, so basically I'll just focus on the invoice requesting. That is a German thing. Yeah, we can go for the new user sign-in notification. So just click on next. So what this does is basically I can add my target users within the organization. So I can run it across the tenant, or I can include only a specific users and groups. So let me add some users to this. So I'll just go for a demo user. So I'll click on add this user, and then I'll just click on next. So what it does is basically it will ask for my preference. Like I can assign a training from my end using this option, or else I can just go for the recommended tag over here. So this is the simulation that is provided by Microsoft itself. So the due date would be like after the simulation has ended, after what time should the end users receive their reports. So I can set it to the minimum time, that is 7 days, and just click on next. Over here, I can see that I can set a preference for the landing page. So either I can run it through my own custom URL on the organization's URL, or I can set it to the default landing page. There are multiple templates which are available. So there are template 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We can use any of those. We can also add a custom logo as well. If we want, we can add a payload indicator to the email. So this will let the end user know that, this is a sort of a phishing mail. I'll just open the preview panel so that we can have a look at what the email would actually look like. So this is what the email would actually look like. So this would be like, hi, Microsoft detected an unusual sign-in attempt for your account, and the email address would be displayed over here. So as soon as the user clicks on that link, they will be displayed this custom URL that, luckily this time it was a simulation carried out by your security team, and recommendation from Microsoft for the end user security. So as we see in the templates, there are multiple scenarios which are available. So you can run credit card phishing mails as well within the organization to just check if the end users are better prepared for such type of scenarios. I'll just cancel this out and I'll just create one more simulation. So we'll just go to link in attachment. I'll click on next. So here we are going to create a payload that is either we can create on Teams or we can create on an email. So I'll click on email. I can enter any payload name. So it would be, suppose example, DHL. So over here, I can set up the from name. So I can spoof a email ID over here. So I can just masquerade that, this email is coming from the CEO. I can send it to my target user, put my attachment over here and put the phishing link, the URL from to where I want the end user to get redirected. So whatever link I put, it will be displayed over here. Then I can click next and just ensure that, this email goes to the end user. Now, since this is a simulation mail, there won't be effect on the end user, but it's only for ensuring that the security preparedness is in place. Yes. So now let's go back to the security center. Apart from security center, there is one more center within Microsoft 365, which is known as the compliance center. So what this basically does is it helps the organization, that is especially the management, to calculate the readiness of their organization. So Microsoft will display some basic compliance requirements. So you can also tailor it according to your requirements. Suppose if it's a medical company which is dealing with healthcare data, then you can just select that, I want to be certified in HIPAA, HIPAA. So whatever compliance scores that you will get will be tailored to that custom solution which you have asked for. What this actually does is it helps us to reduce the risk around the data protection and the regulatory standards. So be it for a new organization who is willing to take up GDPR, so this will be very useful for it. So I'll just switch over to the compliance center, which is available at compliance.microsoft.com. And just see like what are the recommendations or what are the policies that can be implemented and the key improvement scores which are available from Microsoft. So if I just go to the admin center, I'll just navigate back to the admin center. Over here in the admin centers, we have the compliance section. If I just scroll down, this dashboard is similar to the security solution which we have. So since this is a demo account, currently our compliance score is 0%. But if you see all the solutions in the catalog, that is the main thing which is we have a inbuilt data loss prevention, that is the DLP tool from Microsoft. So what it does, it shows us like what are the records, be it sensitive records such as credit card details or health records, how it can be prevented from being shared within the organization and also outside. So if I just open it up, you can see that there are multiple policies which can be set up. So as a default policy, we have a default policy on team. We can just edit this policy if you want, or we can just create a new policy when we want to use it. So I'll just click on next. So these are the locations from where we can apply this policy. So as you can see, we have a location for Exchange email. So whatever sensitive data, whichever integration it is present in, we can just click it on to enable that, the data is secured over there, be it in Exchange Online, be it in SharePoint, OneDrive, Teams, or, even in Power BI. And also what I can do is I can just include a specific set of users within the distribution group, and I also exclude a certain set of users from whom I don't want to scan this. So I'll just keep it as a default for Exchange and Teams. Once I click on next, this is the status that is available for me. That is, it is currently set to on. I can create a more advanced rules, or I can configure multiple rules at the same time. Then I can click on next. There is an option for us to even, either test out the policy or just turn it on right away. So as a precautionary measure, it's always recommended that, we first test it out, and whatever policy modes are there, we collect the data, and only after that we enforce these policies, so that the end users are not, discouraged from these policies. So right now I'll just keep it off. But if I just try to keep it off, it just shows me that, do you actually want to do this? So just click on cancel over here. So this was one of the things. After we have enabled this DLP thing, what we can actually do is all that data will be collected over here, and I can just set up file path exclusions. So if I have endpoint devices which are enrolled into Intune, I can set up that, don't scan the C drive of the system. So I don't want any data from there to be shown up over here. Or I can also specify some apps which are not to be included in the DLP policy. So it could be like, I don't want to scan anything from Exchange as an example, or I don't want anything to be, or the PDF files, the Adobe PDF files not to be scanned. So I can just click on here and add it into this unallowed apps section. So there are multiple other options which are available. So this was, and whatever activity is there, that is available in the Activity Explorer. So once your sensitivity labels have been employed, you will be able to get all the data over here. So this was the DLP within Microsoft 365 Compliance Center. Now going back, these were the two solutions, that is Microsoft 365 Security Center and the Compliance Center, which have been added recently to bolster the security. Now coming to the section for the end users, like what are the security measures that the end users have when using their Office 365 accounts. So the first one is like periodically change your passwords through the self-service password reset portal, SSPR. So this is the password, like if your IT admin has enabled self-service password reset, then the portal would be available at passwordreset.microsoftonline.com. So basically what it does is, after a certain duration of time, as an example, if your IT admin has sent that, after 30 days, the password needs to be changed. So you can come to this portal and directly enter an email ID, fill in the CAPTCHA, click on next and reset your password. So as a multi-factor authentication, you would either get a prompt on your device, that is the mobile device with Microsoft Authenticator, or a text message, that is an SMS message with the OTP code. One more thing after the SSPR that is recommended for the end users is to always check your sign-ins that you have done. So some users would be like roaming users, like you would work someday from one place, or the another day you will work from another place. But the majority of the users, they will log in from the same network, primarily. So whenever you have a doubt that, maybe your account has been compromised, so always check that your sign-ins are from the same place, and verify that, there are no suspicious sign-ins that have been done. So Microsoft actually provides a website. It's known as mysignins.microsoft.com. So I'll just go to that website.
Shashank, sorry to interrupt, but
yeah, Vivek.
We have only a few minutes left, and we've got a couple of questions as well. Can you let me know how many points are you going to cover?
Yes. So we are at the last slide, basically.
Oh, great.
I have only two more resources to share. After that, we can take the Q&A.
Perfect.
Yeah, thanks. So as I was saying, this is the website, mysignins.microsoft.com. So whenever you're logged into your Microsoft account, you can just go to this URL and check your sign-ins. So whenever you have signed, like I've signed into my Office 365 account over here, it will show me the operating system, the browser, and my IP address. So I can be rest assured that, I was the person who actually signed into my account. It will show you all the successful sign-ins as well as the blocked sign-ins. So periodically, please go to this URL and review your sign-ins. And apart from that, the last two resources which we have are always use Microsoft Authenticator app for generating the multi-factor authentication codes, MFA codes. So if your IT admin has enabled it, you will get a one-time passcode. This changes every 30 seconds. So once you're logged into your website from a new device or a new location, you need to enter this OTP code along with your password, and you will get access to your account. And the last one would be, there is a service known as Have I Been Pawned. So the website name is haveibeenpawned.com. So I'll just open that site over here. So what you can do is you can just enter your email ID over here and search if you have been pawned. So what basically this does is, this is an open source community tool. So it checks the recent breaches which have been done. For example, see Aditya Birla fashion retail account. So this company was hacked recently and all the username passwords were leaked online. So what you can do is you can just put your email and click on pawn. So based on this, it will tell you like, do you actually like, has your credentials been compromised? If it is green, then well and good. If it is red, then it's recommended that you instantly change your password over here. So you can go to this website. So basically that brings us to the end of this workshop. So there will be a webinar resources. So we have an ebook with all the step-by-step instructions for whatever we discussed today in the admin section. And you'll also get a recording of the webinar post the session. Thanks so much. And Vivek, we can take up the questions now.
Oh, great. Thank you for this session. It was very informative. We have got a few questions here in the Q&A box. Let's get started. The first one I see here is, are there any certifications for cyber security and what is the difficulty level?
Certifications for cyber. Okay, there are multiple certifications for cyber security. So is it like catered specifically to for Office 365 or is it like as a general thing?
You can talk about Office 365.
Like within Microsoft, there is a certification known as AZ500, Microsoft Security Certification. So that deals with the security aspect and certification for all the cyber security aspects within Microsoft. But if you want to like outside, there are multiple other agencies such as, CompTIA or CEH, the Certified Ethical Hacker. Those are the certificates which are available. Great. And the difficulty level varies from one certificate to another.
All right. Next up, you want to add something?
No, I'll recommend that if it is specifically for Office thing, AZ500 is the way to go.
Great. Another one we have is, how do I check quarantine in Office 365?
Quarantine?
Yeah. I mean, you covered the quarantine topic, the emails in quarantine, I guess.
Yes. So so for that you have to go into the Exchange Online portal, admin portal, and over there whatever mails that have been flagged, right, those are available for review.
All right. The next one we have is, what are the identity models available in Office 365?
Identity models. So basically identity would be there is only one sort of identity, that is, this is just a SaaS solution, right? Software as a service solution. So there are not multiple identity models, but like in case you want to use that same identity elsewhere, that is SSO, single sign-on. So that is available within Office 365.
Great. Next up we have is, do Microsoft Security 365 have a firewall?
No, not explicitly a firewall, but we have in Microsoft 365, basically you have the security session, security aspects which are inbuilt into the admin centers. So as I demonstrated, you can tweak whatever security requirement is as per your configuration or your organization's requirements, and you can just configure it. So there is not explicitly any firewall that is available only in Azure, like Azure firewall.
Right. We have a few more. Please, can you suggest the seamless integration models for integrating virtual conferences with Office 365/Teams and role of AI in it? You want me to
virtual conferences?
Yeah.
Yeah. Please, could you please do it?
Can you please suggest the seamless integration models for integrating virtual conferences with Office 365/Teams and the role of AI in it?
Virtual conferences. I'm not too sure about this, Vivek.
Okay.
Because normally we don't do any virtual conference. Like you can just host a webinar within Teams.
All right. No problem. So whoever this user is, you can reach out to us maybe offline, and we can,
Yeah.
we'll be more than happy to take this up with you and get more clarity on this. The next one I have, Shashank, is as in Exchange Online Dynamics delivery policy, the attachments are scanned for malware. Does this policy helps in scanning and removing the common basic malware and send the attachment, or it will block the attachment with any kind of malware?
Okay, in the dynamic delivery, right?
Yeah.
So in dynamic delivery, basically it does is irrespective of the attachment type, it will directly send the email like without the attachment. At the back end, the secure score will check if the attachment is a malware or not. In case it is flagged that it is a malware, it will be blocked. In case it is found that it is safe, then it will be forwarded to the end user.
All right. The last one I see here is, what is the use of ADFS in Office 365?
ADF is okay, Active Directory Federation Service, right? So that is actually used for a single sign-on. So what it does is the tenant which you have online, right? The domain. So if you need to connect it to your on-premises server, that is the server domain controller which you have within the office, then you use this ADFS service to connect to Office 365 on the cloud. So it is for the syncing between both the offline on-premise server and the online tenant.
All right, we'll take another one. Well, this will be the last question for the day. If you still have any further questions, please feel free to type them here. If not now, then maybe we can definitely answer these questions offline. The one that I see here, Shashank, is, has phishing been a problem area in your organization as well? And how have you handled it?
Okay. So for phishing thing, as I demonstrated earlier, so we have set up anti-spam and anti-phishing policies in the organization. So phishing is obviously a major concern for the organization, irrespective of their domain, or their size. So like phishing is the most common type of cyber attack that happens. But with Office 365, you can obviously bolster your security a lot. So we have neutralized multiple threat vectors, in phishing after implementing Office 365.
Great. So we have taken all the questions. I don't see any further questions. All right, then I think we can close the session. Thank you so much again for your time, everyone. And thank you so much, Shashank, for this wonderful session. This session was recorded, so everyone who has attended the session or was not able to make it will definitely get an email with the recording link. We host webinars every month, and sometimes twice a month. So follow our page on LinkedIn, subscribe to our newsletters. You will be getting all the updates from us regularly. Once again, thank you so much for your time. You guys take care, and I hope to see you all in the next session. Thank you, Shashank.
Yeah, thanks, Vivi. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah, bye-bye.